Serpent Rising, the Kundalini Compendium, out right now. So what is the book about? People want to know. Well, number one, it's about my Kundalini awakening journey, which started in 2004 when I had a full Kundalini awakening, an activation that's considered rare. Not the Kundalini awakening itself. There's been a lot of those, especially in the past dozen years. It's the level to which I had the Kundalini awakening, where it rose up into my brain and it further up towards Sahasrara chakra, awakening the body of light, complete breaking of the cosmic egg, Brahmarandra, in the tantric tradition, and an absolute full activation. So Kundalini awakenings are pretty common in this day and age, but not to this level. Most people have spontaneous awakenings. I did too, actually, but it was the meditation that I was doing unknowingly that led to this level of awakening. So I won't get into the whole story, but when you read the whole story of my awakening process, you get to see that it was just a lot of factors coming together at the same time to make this thing happen. But it happened, and it changed absolutely everything in my life. Changed how I function in every way. But one of the most important shifts was a shift in my visual perception that occurred maybe about 5 months in, which was, so once this energy is awakened inside your brain, it brings light inside your head at all times, right? Which you can hear as a like a bioenergy, as a sound of vibration, or people compare it to the sound of buzzing of bees. You hear it inside your head at all times, which means that electrical impulses are running at a higher level inside your body, where you can actually hear it from the interior, which is very overwhelming at first. It can definitely keep you up at night, like it did for me, and it does for many others. So once this light was awakened inside me, it permeated the entire everything that I see in front of me. So whenever I look at any object, I could see the holographic nature of that object. So this entire outside world has been completely transformed. So really, you're looking at the same world. The idea is that once you raise the vibration of matter, you start to enter into its energetic properties, which are holographic, right? It's empty space, this whole reality. But with a full Kundalini awakening to the level that I had it, it shifts your view of reality. So it's almost like I like to compare it to advancing from a PlayStation 3 or 2 all the way to the 5, right? So you're looking at the same game worlds. Just imagine GTA 5, like back when it was GTA 2 or GTA 1, and how it looked, like the graphics. And all of a sudden you do a full jump to GTA 5, but now it's on the PS5. And so the graphics are just like, so this whole world, all of a sudden, I'm looking at it, but I'm seeing it differently. And I don't mean like some philosophical, I'm seeing it differently, like I see things differently, man. No, I mean like it transforms before your very eyes, where the colors pop out. There's like a velvety surface to most objects. There's like a velvety kind of sheen, very difficult to describe. So I'll do my best here. And it's like this whole wonderland that just wakes up, and it's right there and in front of you, and you're living it daily, and you get to really realize, wow, this has been the biggest gift that I could ever have, and that was one of the, I knew I had a Kundalini awakening before that, but once that happened, I realized, holy shit, I never even heard of this. I did once from a guy, Gopi Krishna. You may or may not know him. He's kind of been the leading name in the Kundalini science field, if there is such a thing. They're trying to make it into a thing, but frankly, there's just not been Okay, so what I bring to the table is an actual science. in the sense of like telling you how things work, the energetic system. So that's what my book is about. It's about knowing how the energetic framework that comprises your aura. So it's not just the chakras. People always talk about the 7 chakras. Yeah, that's kind of the main function, the main cogs in the wheel, so to say. But there's also minor chakras, okay? And these are, you know, in your palm, on your fingers. These are in your feet, you know. And then you have these transpersonal chakras, which I also introduce. And they're very valuable to the Kundalini awakened person because they let you understand a whole different dimension past the 4th dimension of vibration, which is where these other chakras operate from through the body of light. So these higher chakras, including the soul star and the stellar gateway chakras, that's the highest one, the stellar gateway, which connects you to the Milky Way galaxy as a whole, whereas the soul star connects you to the solar system, to our solar system. Because essentially, I'm going off on a tangent. This is what I do, so I'm just getting comfortable speaking. All right. Now I've done it before, but you know, I've buried my face in a book for a number of years now, so I may have, you know, lost my touch. So bear with me a little bit. Every single human being is the solar system. Okay, the totality of our solar system. So your soul, the solar system, is part of the sun. You are the sun. Now, the moon's purpose is to reflect your thoughts. It creates duality. Okay, so it creates good and evil, heaven and hell, right? Heaven, when you take away the mind, which processes duality because the soul processes unity, when you take away the mind, you're left with unity. So the unity exists in this field, this cosmic consciousness field, which is the energy of love that connects all of these things, which we have inside of us. But because we're animals, we're part animals, we also have, going off a major tangent here, we started with the book, but what the hell, let's get jiggy with it. So our soul is of the light, and our soul is eternal, and our soul is from the sun, and you are the sun. You are the totality of the solar system. So that means that the planets orbiting the sun are your powers, your powers that enable you to build character. Right now, personality is different. Personality is the ego. So the ego comes from the mind, experiencing duality, which is based on the lunar light reflecting the light of the sun. Something a little different, but also part of us. So essentially what you're trying to do is get through illusion to get to the truth. You're trying to go through the moon to get to the sun. All right. And that's what a Kundalini awakening does. One of the things is it enables you to cut through your own illusion, which is your ego projecting these thoughts, these images, these feelings, these emotions, to get to the reality of who you are, what this world is about, and that this holographic reality is a part of that, but also what is the purpose of it all, right? Now, at the back of my book, I say something very special. I say that the purpose of your life and your soul's journey is to awaken the Kundalini while you're living on this planet, all right? So if you do it in this lifetime, you're, what I believe, and these thoughts, okay, a lot of my knowledge, if not most of my knowledge, yeah, like I read books, I do a lot of research, I have a giant library, 500 books, you know, I've read a lot of them. I've flipped through most of them to know where information is that I need when I need it. But most of my knowledge is channeled, all right? Because what happens is when you awaken this light, inner light, you obtain this connection to what people call the higher self, right? So it's you, it's the God part of you, right? Because you're part God, part animal, right? You're in this body, so the body's animal, but the human, the consciousness, the logic, the reason, the intellect, that comes from God, right? And God is this universal field that we're all a part of. We're all God. Not one person's God, the other person's not. No, we're all God. And all these sages, adepts, these people that we refer to as gods, like Jesus Christ, okay? He's become a God-like figure, but he's a man an adept who awakened his Kundalini and who came to a certain level of consciousness that his mission on this earth was then to teach others of this light, okay? And a whole religion was built around his work, all right? But he was made into a god, and he never was a god. He was always a man who became like a god. Now, every single human being has this power, okay? Now, you also have polytheistic gods, which that's a whole different, segue here, but the polytheistic gods, in my view, were actually extraterrestrials who came here thousands of years ago. I'm talking hundreds of thousands, approximately 300,000 years ago to be sure, okay, according to the Sumerian tablets, and they gave humanity knowledge. Okay, so the apple in the Garden of Eden, you know, apple, like the iPhone apple, the little apple symbol represents knowledge. Okay, so Eve eating the apple from the tree of good and evil was her receiving knowledge from the serpent. Now, the serpent can have a few symbolic ideas tied to him. Number one, the serpent, the idea is that these extraterrestrials were reptilian-like. They had reptilian-like features. That's one theory. Now, what I believe, based on my experience, is that the serpent is directly linked to the Kundalini energy. So these serpents, these nagas, these serpent beings who are the extraterrestrials were actually light beings who awakened their body of light and who actually did not have a physical body, so they use humans to interface with this reality, and that's why they created humans, and put this trigger inside of us so that we can awaken their consciousness, their godness inside of them, and so that they can be given a third dimensional body. Okay, and so that's one of my books, one of my future books that I already started working on is about that. That's kind of where all of my books are headed, is in that direction. That, okay, so you're born with this Kundalini, so I teach you about the Kundalini through different books, and then eventually what I'm trying to do is reveal, based on my Gnostic knowledge, my direct channeling with whatever, you know, deities are speaking to me, whatever higher forces are communicating with me, to about our origins. Where do we come from, okay, and where are we going, more importantly, right? So technological advancement is really just one side of the coin, but it's not even the important side, right? Like humans at one point in time were a lot more spiritually advanced, like during the, now I'm going off again on a tangent, but let's, you know, bear with me. So going back to the Egyptian times and the Sumerian times, you know, the Egyptian spiritual technology was very high level, okay? So these guys were so fucking high level, the Egyptians, that the pharaohs, their main concern was with the afterlife, right? Because they knew that the purpose of life is not about this life, it's about preparing yourself for the next life, and not just preparing yourself through material things. That's actually not important at all. It's about preparing your spiritual body, your body of light, your ba, your ka, as they call it, which is where the idea of awakening, optimizing your Merkaba comes from, right? The Merkaba is your toroidal energy field, okay? So it's two spinning, geometrically depicted as two spinning tetrahedrons spinning in opposite directions simultaneously. What happens is they create a perfect sphere, right? Now that sphere, your soul is also a sphere. It's spherical in shape. So what happens is when you create this interdimensional travel vehicle, this Merkaba, your soul is able to embody it and travel intergalactically, interplanetary, and interdimensionally. Okay, so it enables travel from here to wherever the soul wants to go. Now, your ego does not have control over this process. Your soul does. All right. So the spiritual technology of the Egyptians was very high, right? And to this day, we're still trying to decipher their symbols, and we're trying to decipher all of their symbols. By the way, were put into their art and architecture, right? So their whole technology was not written down; it was put into symbols, and this is how esoteric and occult knowledge is conveyed, through symbol and number. This is where it all came from. It was the Egyptians, okay? These guys, they got some extraterrestrial technology, probably from, what's his name? Akhenaten, okay? So Akhenaten was clearly an extraterrestrial. He was a hybrid, most likely, and Akhenaten was the first monotheist who wanted to convert humanity, or the Egyptians. He wanted to convert them to believe in one single God, right? The sun, right? Always comes back to the sun, okay? Now, Jesus, who was he? He was the sun. Who were the 12 disciples? They were the 12 zodiac surrounding the sun, okay? It's all symbology, folks. Symbolism, right? Stop taking your fucking religious books so literally. That's not the key to unlocking their mysteries, because their mysteries are only unlocked through symbol and number, okay? and metaphor, allegory. Okay, so three things: metaphors, allegories, symbols, numbers. All right. So all of my knowledge is Gnostic. Everything that I convey, everything that I give you is to be understood through symbol, number, and now I've also have a way of communicating where I can take something that's very complex and just bring it down to a level where it's super easy to understand. Because in my belief, you don't need big words, you don't need complicated structures of things to try to make sense of reality. Everything should be very simple: point, line, triangle, simple shapes. Okay, and that's what sacred geometry is. All right, but what I do goes beyond just sacred geometry. It goes into unlock these subconscious archetypes, okay, that are in your brain that we all base our reality around. So there's no like, oh, I think this and you think that, which is something that happens in society a lot nowadays. It doesn't matter what you fucking think, okay? What matters is archetypes, reality. There is a reality, folks, okay? And understanding the nature of this reality, going back to old teachings as opposed to trying to create new ones, okay? I believe that the truth and the answers to who we are lies in our past, okay? It's not about trying to recreate something that's already worked. It's about finding out why it worked and then trying to bring it here to this level. Okay, trying to create it, recreate it, so that, not recreate, rediscover it. Okay, so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to rediscover our roots, not create something new, because what the ancients had worked, right? The Egyptians, okay, the Greeks, what they had worked. So we're trying to recreate what they had, remodel it, and use today's language to understand it in the best way. Because keep in mind, when you're reading these ancient books, they were written thousands of years ago by people who had a completely different language and different cultures and different ways of relating to the world. So they use different symbols and things like that. But what you find is that a lot of these symbols are universal, okay? And a lot of these symbols, they're all archetypal, right? So by bringing them up, we are bringing up and allowing these archetypes to resurface in our subconscious, okay? That's what Carl Jung was concerned about. That's why he was so involved with the occult.